Great. Hello, everybody. You're doing well. We're on to a new month here, March. This lesson is scheduled for March the 6th. Our last uh, assignment was in February, so we're moving right along here. 23. So without further ado, let me get on to my usual steps. All right, in the beginning. There we go. So again, class code ENG 107, college English, composition, and reading. And like I said, this is scheduled for March 6th, 2023. All right, so here we go. Orienting the reader. So if you're not sure what orienting means, it's has nothing to do with the old term talking about Asia, which was the Far East, which was the Orient. It's a verb meaning getting yourself used to something or ready. Let's say you've never driven on the freeway. You've only driven, as they say, the local. Well, the first few times you drive on the freeway, you will be orienting yourself to driving at high speed. Okay. So here it says orienting the reader about writing introduction. So it's teaching you, getting you used to writing an introduction and letting you know how important that is. Okay. So here we go with the old literature term. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Does this ring a bell? Which means, do you remember this? These are the opening words to every episode in the massive, culture-bending Star Wars franchise, which is, I think, pretty much stolen from Once Upon a Time, right? Cinderella and all those things. They shoot the white girl first, but the rest they can take their time. Okay, let's see what that's about. Sit with that one for a minute. Shocking? Yes. Compelling? Yes. Does it make you want to know what's going on? Absolutely. You might not recognize this as the first line from Toni Morrison's novel Paradise, but it's a good first line. I don't know how good of a line that is for me, but it not only sets a scene showing violence in a group of people who probably men. Why would that have to be men? On a murder spree, killing another group of people, at least one white woman. The rest are not white, and we can guess they're probably women too. Now, how could you guess that too? Right? That could be children. But it also pulls out any number of emotional reactions. This is an incredible first line, according to the author of this book. Okay. Now, these examples are pretty extreme, and I'll agree on that. The first is from one of the most popular, if not the, right in caps, most popular series of films in American history. And the second is from the seventh novel by one of the greatest American authors alive today. Greatest American authors? Their introductions don't need to be as earth-shattering, or shocking is what they mean. But they do need to do three things. So your introductions should do three things. Grab the reader's attention. That's preferable. You want to do that in some way. You know, it's like the old the old speech classes I used to take in college. You get a guy up there and he says, well, I'm going to talk about sex. And everybody dropped their pencils and their books. And he says, well, now that I have your attention, I'm going to talk about, counting or something. He just did that to grab your attention. That's all, mentioning the word sex. Next, give a sense of the direction of ideas in the essay. I guess they're trying to say in the second one by Miss Morrison, there's going to be violence. So people want to, once violence starts, people want to see the ultimate outcome of what's going on. And then next, set up what the writing will be like in the essay. Super formal, more informal, etc. All right, no big deal, right? Actually, it can feel like a huge deal. In writing the introduction can be so scary for some writers that it stops any forward progress. So here are the first two rules for writing introductions. And that is true. People are so scared and cannot seem to start their paper that they don't start the paper, right? I mean, it's a cross, If you don't want to get too caught up in trying to write the best introduction of all time, but you don't want to write a boring one. If you think you're going to try to write the best, you'll never write anything. But that should make it easier for you to write something that's at least decent. Okay, so let's get into these first two rules for writing introductions. Two rules for writing introductions. Rule number one, if you don't have ideas for the introduction, skip it. Oh dear, what does that mean? Don't write, that doesn't mean don't write the paper, So let's see. No, don't skip it altogether. You need to have one. And that's correct. But if it's freaking you out and stopping you from getting going on your essay, start working with your body paragraphs first. I knew that was the catch. So it's like, start doing the body. You can pad that, right? You can come back to the introduction. Maybe by doing the body, it'll give you an idea for the intro. Sometimes you need to play with the essay ideas for a while before an idea for the introduction alights or lands on your shoulder and demands your attention. It's like the old light bulb going off. It's like you play and play and play with the body and pat it, and then suddenly, bingo bongo, gadoing, you have the intro in your mind and you can go back and write it quickly. Of course, sometimes ideas aren't that cooperative and you need to work at pulling them out. Have you written the rest of the essay? And now you are considering the virtues of skipping writing an introduction altogether rather than going through the torture of having to figure it out. First, relax. Don't take it too seriously. What I was trying to say before, you're so paranoid and writing the world's best intro, you don't get around to doing even an easy intro, or an acceptable intro. Okay, let's move to rule number 2, consider audience. We've had this before. You have to consider your audience at all times, and it'll make your writing easier. This brings us to the second rule about introductions. Ask yourself, what will get my audience's attention? Right? Always consider the audience's needs, interests, and desires. If your audience is similar to you in any way, fabulous, fantastic. Ask yourself, what would get my attention? So you're asking yourself personally, what would get my attention? Would it be zombies on a rampage? Write an introduction that amuses or fascinates you. After all, if you're generally delighted or happy, excited, I don't think if anybody uses the word delighted anymore, that could rub off on the reader. So they're saying, if you're happy about your intro, if it catches your attention, if you're like, again, excited about the zombies on a rampage looking for butterscotch sundaes, then there's a good chance your audience will like it too, right? If you already have them in mind. Okay. Types of introductions: thesis statement, anecdote, asking questions, a contradiction, and starting in the middle. It might help if you had some ideas about the types of introductions out there. Thesis statement, anecdote, asking questions, a contradiction, starting in the middle. Okay, let's get into the thesis statement. And thesis statement introductions are for the traditionalists. They also often work well in professional writing. They are typical informal essays where it's important to start broad subject, to help create context for a topic before narrowing it into land and the specific point of the essay. In the thesis statement, at the end of the introductory paragraph. Good thoughts to think about there. Let's say you want to stretch your creativity a bit, though. You might try an anecdotal introduction, where you tell a brief but complete story, real or fictional. And that's important. Make it up. This is using narration to catch the reader's attention. That's one, like in a movie, and they have Morgan Freeman, start reading or talking to you about and telling you about what's going on instead of going first person with the actual star of the movie. Another strategy writers employ when writing introductions is asking a question or questions to catch the reader's attention. You might have heard the adage or saying, there are no dumb questions, only dumb answers. While that's often true, when it comes to introductions, you need to be smart about the types of questions you ask, always keeping your audience in mind. One, don't ask yes or no questions. The reason that is, it's not a long answer. You want things stretched out as long as possible. Two, don't ask questions that will cause the reader to tune out, right? Don't ask them a question that they're like either offended by or something they don't want to pay attention to, because that's the slang word of tuning out. They'll stop paying attention. That's the last thing you want in your paper. Next, do ask questions that get the reader thinking in the direction you're planning on going with your essay. It's like building them a roadmap, all right? Continuing, if I find my arrow, there we go. Another strategy that can work well is considering the contradictions in your topic. Playing the devil's advocate, so that's like good cop, bad cop. And bringing them up right away in the introduction. Notice that right here, folks. Right away. When it comes to your topic, what cliches are out there about it? If you don't know what a cliche is, it's kind of like a stereotype. What misunderstandings do people have? Those ideas can make for a great introduction. So, there's stereotypes, cliches. American people think that people in Japan eat sushi every day. A lot of my Japanese students think that Americans eat at McDonald's every day. So both of those things are not usually true, right? Next, marking your mark, writing a conclusion. Let's be honest, when you spend so much time working out the ideas of your essay, organizing them, and writing an awesome, eye-catching introduction, by the time you get to the conclusion, you might have run out of steam, which means, uh-oh, I don't have enough writing information to finish this. That's what they mean by running out of steam. It can feel impossible to maintain the creative momentum through the most boring of paragraphs, the conclusion. So what do writers do? Easy. They start writing in conclusion and sum up what the reader just got done reading. It's a very helpful technique. If that feels off to you, off meaning not good, it should. Unless you've written a long essay, a summary style conclusion isn't appropriate and can even be insulting to the reader. Wow. Why would you think readers need to be reminded of what they just said? Have more faith in them and in your writing. If you've done your job in the essay, your ideas will be etched or carved in the reader's brain. You still need to have a conclusion, though, right? It's got to say something at the end of the paper. So what's a conscientious writer to do? Conscientious means someone who really worries about being clear and giving you an answer, right? Always good to be conscientious. The goal of a conclusion is to leave the reader with the final impression of your take or your meaning on the topic. You need to try to have the final be-all and end-all word on the topic. Case closed. No more discussion. Readers will reject this. And again, don't worry about summarizing what you just read. Yes, they're pushing creativity here instead of formality. Okay, types of conclusions. Okay, mirroring the introduction. So it's like you hold a mirror up to it and mimic it, kind of do the same thing. Predicting the future, a lot of people like that. And you don't have to be correct, you're just predicting it. And then humor, a lot of people like the humor aspect. The easiest way to write a conclusion, especially after you've written a stellar introduction, stellar means, great, is to mirror the introduction. So, if you started by setting the scene in the cafeteria mid food fight, go back to the cafeteria in the conclusion. Perhaps just as the fight is over and it's dawned on all the kids that this was a bad idea. If you spend your introduction bringing up a contradiction and dispelling it or disproving it, allude to that or refer to that contradiction again in your conclusion. If you asked a question in the introduction, you'd better be sure to answer it in the conclusion. Yes. Don't leave these questions that you wrote in the beginning of your paper unanswered when you're finishing it. People don't like those open gaps in a paper. It's the same with a movie, right? They start with a movie and introduce one character and he likes to go to shady bars, and then they show him in the beginning he goes into a shady bar and a bunch of tough guys are going to beat him up, and then they drift off in the movie into other things, and by the end of the movie it's like, what happened to that guy? You got to answer these questions. Mirroring is the easiest way of thinking about an appropriate concluding strategy. So strategies are helpful here. You might also consider looking into the crystal ball. So that's for predicting the future, the old crystal ball fortune tellers use, and predicting the future. Let's say you're arguing for increased sales taxes to help you improve your city's crumbling roads, the potholes in your essay. In your conclusion, you paint a picture of what the future roads would look like or feel like when driving on them if you got your way. This idyllic concrete scene would remain in the reader's minds, increasing the chances that they'll remember your point of view. Again, you're predicting the future. Don't have to be correct. It's only what you want. If you're writing to please your audience, they will continue to pay attention. Another option that helps to endear you or make people like you one more time to the reader is ending with something funny or catchy. Would readers feel good? Oh, when readers feel good because you utilize the strategy of a humorous or funny conclusion. They'll remember that feeling and your take on the topic. You don't need to be a comedian to be funny either. You can utilize jokes made in popular culture to make your reader smile. From the classic, "Where's the beef?" Now, that's an old one. That they used to have an old, very old grandmother who would come on these, I guess, was it Burger King? And then they would come like some other hamburger place. The burger would be really small, the meat, and she'd say, "Where's the beef?" Right, and it would show you how big Burger King's is. So this is the catchphrase. Or it was Wendy's, sorry. Fast food chain Wendy's utilized in the 80s to the more current double rainbow YouTube video to the most cutting edge memes. These jokes can be utilized for an impactful conclusion. The key, however, and warning, so we're warning you here, is to consider your audience. We're going back to that again. Choose something that will amuse your audience or make them laugh. Because although you don't need to be a comedian to write a humorous conclusion, excuse me, like a comedian, if the joke falls flat, if nobody laughs at it, you'll leave readers with crickets chirping. That's what they say. You could hear crickets chirp, 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 chirp. And awkward silence that all comedians face one time or another. And that's called bombing, right? As a comedian, nobody laughs at your joke. It's like me telling a joke from when I was a kid. I think the first joke I ever heard, was kind of a typical riddle joke, you know. How did it go? Uh, you want to hear a dirty joke? The people would say, "Yeah, tell me a dirty joke." And they'd say, "A white horse fell in the mud." Now, believe it or not, for kids, that was funny at that time, but I'm not a kid anymore, so no one's going to laugh at that. Or the old other famous, "Why do elephants paint their toenails red?" And they say, "Oh, I don't know why." To hide in cherry trees. And so that's not funny anymore. It will fall flat. Awkward silence. Now we're going to move on to the second part and focusing your mind. Oh, unlike other activities, reading requires an active mind and a passive body. A deadly combination, especially when you spent the day in classes and haven't had a chance to burn off that excess energy with a tennis match, a game of hoops, or a quick run around campus. Concentration-wise, reading can be more demanding than class lectures, homework assignments, or taking notes. Class, you at least had vocal variety and the threat of being called upon to keep you focused by the teacher. Temujin, can you please start reading? And writing, while a sedentary means seated activity, still requires some hand and eye coordination to keep your brain moving or working. So a big strategy here is keep your mind on one thing. Concentration begins with the ability to keep your mind focused on one thing, your reading assignment. This is not an innate talent, it means a talent that you already are born with, but a learned discipline. So everybody has to learn this technique. Much like an athlete must learn to be so focused that she is completely unaffected by screaming crowds, a good reader absorbs himself in what he is reading, or as I say, he's really getting into it. Steps to better concentration. Here are some other practical steps I recommend to increase your ability to concentrate. 1, get some exercise before you begin your reading. A game of racquetball, an exercise class, a workout at the gym, even a brisk walk will help burn off the physical energy so you'll be able to direct all of your mental energy to your reading. Read in the right place. No, it's not in front of the TV, nor the room if your roommate is hosting a pizza party. Reading is a solitary activity, meaning something you do alone. Find a quiet corner, preferably a place designated for study only, at your desk or in the library. Although tempting, reading on your bed can be dangerous if you're struggling to concentrate. You may just lose the battle and find yourself in the perfect place to doze off or fall asleep. So you can see it's important to pick the correct areas to study, not in the middle of a nightclub at 2 a.m. Right? Eliminate distractions. If you've properly scheduled your reading time, you won't be distracted by other pending assignments or other things that you have scheduled to do. That's what they mean there. If you're trying to read one assignment while worrying about another, your concentration and comprehension will inevitably suffer. Make sure there's nothing else in sight to vie for your attention or fight for your attention. Again, videos, rock and roll concert. Maybe it's not a good idea if you're meant to study at the beach and there's a lot of bikini women walking by. I don't think you'll have much success concentrating on your study. Are there letters on your desk that you need to answer? Put them away and schedule some time to write back. Do you hear sirens and screams from the TV show in the other room? Turn it off or down, or better yet, close the door. There's nothing you can do about real sirens, right? From the police in the street, but from the TV, yeah, next door. 4, plan breaks. If you have 3 hours or more of reading ahead of you, the mere thought of it may be so discouraging that you'll lose your concentration before you even pick up the book. So that means you just sit there and say, oh, damn, 4 hours of reading, I can't do it. But instead, if you think of, I'm going to schedule short 10 or 15-minute breaks after each hour of reading. Get up, listen to music, stretch, eat a Big Mac. If you must break more frequently, keep your breaks shorter by dividing your reading into smaller, more digestible bites you'll be able to concentrate it effectively. So just imagine out of a 4-hour read, you've taken a few breaks and you said, hey, I've already read 2 hours. I've had 2 breaks to rest and eat, feel pretty good. All I got to do is knock out 2 more hours instead of just trying to pick a big chunk of 4 hours. That's a bit tough. You're not looking to be Superman here. Wait, don't start reading yet. Have you defined your purpose for reading? Oh, remember that? Define your purpose. What are you reading for? Once again, you must have a clearly defined purpose or goal. What are you reading for? And like I just told you, here's the book. I have addressed this numerous times, but spaced repetition is an effective way to make a point. The point is that reading without purpose is the greatest means to going nowhere. Already had this question in the homework, which is where you'll find your mind after about half an hour. So you're just la la la, doo doo doo, dee 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 dee, bop bop bop. And then someone says, okay, you've been reading for half an hour. Can you explain to me what you read? Well, I read 10 pages. First page was about a horse. Last page, I think there was some peanut butter. Okay, but what was the story of what you're reading? I don't know, right? So in the middle here, know why you are reading. If your teacher or professor has given you questions to answer, then you know what you're looking for. If not, ask your own questions using the clues in your book, as discussed in chapter 2. An effective pre-read of the material should help you define your purpose and stimulate some interest in finding out more, which will result in increased concentration. Okay, motivation, crucial or most important to concentration. Motivation is key to your success in just about any endeavor or effort, whether it's graduating with honors, maintaining an effective time management program, or improving your reading. You can utilize all the tricks and steps I've mentioned in this chapter, but if you lack the motivation to read, you'll find it a struggle to concentrate on your assignment. You see that you can still use all the tricks and steps, but if you don't have the motivation, which means I really don't want to read, I'm just forcing myself to do this. There are 2 types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. So, one's in and one's out. What's the difference? Okay, here we go. An avid murder mystery fan, you buy stacks of paperbacks at the used bookstore and spend your free time with your nose buried in them. You love the challenge of figuring out who's guilty before you reach the end. In fact, you'd spend all weekend reading mysteries if you didn't have to complete a reading assignment for your political science class. You're not particularly interested in that course, but your efforts on this assignment could secure you an A for the term. So you're determined to read the material and ace the exam. Let's hope so. Your motivation for reading the mysteries is intrinsic then. You do it because you enjoy it. You don't get any awards. You don't get paid for it. The poli-sci or political sci reading, on the other hand, requires external motivation. You're reading it because you want to earn a high grade in class. Your reward is external, beyond the reading itself, so not really enjoying reading. It's like a big job that you have to do, and you just need to do it. All right. So here we go. On to the questions. Okay. 1, and this is part of your organizing. introductions need to do which three things? Okay. So again, I've numbered them, so that's easy. I could tell you, list the things they need to do, and you might do less or more, but this way you really know that you have to do these three. 2, what are the 2 rules for writing introductions? I just went over that, so that should be easy to remember. So again, none of my funny guys. What are the 2 rules? With cheese and without cheese? No. We'll go with another numbering to make your day easier. List the 5 introduction types, right? And these are not introductions for dating, these are introductions for writing, right? Your essay. 4, what is the goal of a conclusion? Yeah, why write a conclusion? You must know why you must write it and what you're trying to do. And once you know those things, then you will have the answer for what is the goal of a conclusion. Next, 5. What are the 3 types of conclusions? See, I've been really kind because we're getting close to the end here. So just give me 3 kinds. Don't sit there and wonder, does he want 4? Does he want 2? Does he want 1? Okay. To our second group of questions. Focusing your mind question. Can you focus your mind if you're had 10 cups of coffee in one day? Or is it just buzzing around? Okay. 1, reading requires what? Now, I ask these kinds of questions because they're pretty basic. So I can tell when people, students don't read, and then they'll write a bunch of stuff. And basically, my questions like these they're real basic. Just can answer them very quickly. I'm not looking for a long, like reading requires what? Well, that you get a book from the library. This is a typical answer of a student that didn't read the material or listen to the video. You get a book from the library, you check it out, and then you gotta find a warm table, and then you gotta place the book on the table, and then you gotta open it, and then you gotta sit down in a comfortable chair. It's like, that's not what I'm looking for. If you watch the video, did the reading, you know what it'd be in 2 seconds. 2, concentration begins with the ability to do what? Again, for my funny guys, it's not to think, because you have to think if you want to concentrate. Just look at the material. 3, list the 4 practical steps to concentration. So again, a nice list there. 4, where do you get if you read without purpose? I've asked this before, so this is a give me easy points question. If you've done the homework before, you already know what the answer is right now. So, again, trying to be kind, we're coming to the end of the quarter. And 5, explain the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which I think I just ended this video with. So that information should also be fresh in your mind. Okay? So again, I'm wishing you a happy March that we're into. Before you know it, we'll be done with the quarter and then headed on to the spring quarter. And the years shall continue to roll by. Okay, so everybody stay positive and happy. We'll take it from there. Thank you. All right, so I'll be ending it right here. Take care, folks.